Dragon Age Origins. The mere mention of the game sends a shiver down any self-respecting gamer's spine. It was the perfect mix of innovative gameplay, lovable characters, and a very interesting world. But then Dragon Age 2 came along, and like the abomination it was cast deep into the fade and never spoke of again. Well, 100 odd times, but still. It was a terrible game, and that really hurt a lot of gamers, because Dragon Age 1 was so good, and Dragon Age 2 was so bad in comparison. And that kind of followed the franchise, and it meant there was no more games coming out. Or so we thought. Dragon Age Inquisition is on the horizon, and it's set to redeem BioWare as a company and redeem the Dragon Age name. So I'm here to get you excited for the new game and show you why BioWare have indeed learned from their past mistakes. So sit back, relax, and learn why you should indeed return to dear old Theodas. Continuity. Characters and choices from Dragon Age 1 and 2 will carry over and have a real impact on the world. Did you give that little kid his dearest lollipop? No? Well, they'd come and kill everyone you ever loved. Small and large choices alike will have a big impact on the world itself, and how easy it is to actually rally troops, rally factions, and fight the creatures that come from the Fade. Characters who survived the last game will carry over and make appearances, such as Varric and Morrigan, and I'm sure many other people will appear as well, being key parts of the story. Not just characters, choices you made in general. In Dragon Age Origins there was a choice where you could save the werewolves, or you could side with the elves, and if you went with the werewolves, perhaps they join you in the Inquisition. Nothing's known right now, but it's definitely known that there's going to be decisions like that that'll have big impact on how things happen in the game. Of course, you're not the Grey Warden, so they won't remember you, but the fact that they're still alive will be because of what the Grey Warden or Hawk actually did in his adventures. Playable races are back. In Dragon Age Origins, you could choose a race and a backstory and have that be your specific character. Dragon Age 2 got rid of that, and they only had humans, but they did have the mage, the rogue, and the warrior. In this one, you have the elves, you have the dwarves, you have the men, but now you have the Qunari. Now the Qunari had a bigger part in Dragon Age 2, but now they're an actual playable race, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to want to get hands on Qunari and become one of those. They'll have backstories in Dragon Age 3 again. Your Qunari might be akin to Sten, or he might be part of the Quinn, someone who left the Qunari religions behind. Stuff like that will have a big impact as well, the kind of backstory you choose, the race you choose, and it'll make it easier or harder to rally troops for the Inquisition, much like your past choices will as well. Humans may be more partial to rally behind men than elves, or vice versa. Elves wouldn't really want to go with men because they enslaved them almost, and there'll be feuds because of race. And this will cause problems down the line in terms of oaths and armies. The one thing people liked about Dragon Age 2 was the fact that the character, the main person you played, Hawk, had an actual voice. Albeit a terrible voice, he still had a voice. In this one, your character will have a voice. It'll be different for each different race, each different backstory. But the fact that he has a voice is something that a lot of people will like, because in Origins you had the silent hero and you had no choice in the matter. He never talked in dialogue, but all he did say was like tally ho and attack them now. It was small things like that, but this time it's a fully fledged voice actor with fully fledged dialogue. So a lot of people will think that the character feels more kind of realistic and feels like you have a bigger connection because he actually talks. With the new console generation comes new engines, and with new engines comes new games. But not in this case. Dragon Age is going to be using the Frostbite engine, which was famously used on Battlefield, and don't worry, it's not going down the FPS route, not by any means, but the way that they've used it is very interesting indeed. It's especially good for mages, because when you cast a spell, it actually affects the world. So you could go and cast a fire spell on a bridge, and that would cause the bridge to fall down, and you could have a strategic point because of that. So it really seems like you have a physical impact on Ferelden, as well as an emotional and psychological one. In terms of freedom, Dragon Age Inquisition is a much bigger game compared to Dragon Age 1 and 2. You're not stuck in Ferelden, going around the place, and you're certainly not stuck in Kirkwall. One separate area, one leveling zone, will be the size of the whole map of Dragon Age 2. So I use that as a kind of example and a kind of way of seeing how big this game is actually going to be. It's making the best of the next gen console, not just in terms of graphics, but in terms of the kind of scale of the world. Now you can go to many places in the world, like I said. You can go to Ferelden again, you can go to Orlais, you can go to the Dales, Navarra, the Free Marchers, Hammershal, and lots of places between Orlais and Ferelden have also been kind of hinted at, but not really spoken aloud. And all these places Many people know where they are, they've been talked about, but not a lot of them have been seen, so that adds another kind of set of mystery to it. And playstyle will also be very unique to each person, as tactility can be clear if you desire. In Dragon Age 1 they had the tactical map where you could go like kind of airborne and look from the skies. They've introduced that again, so it's sort of like a Diablo style camera. So that's good for a lot of people who like this kind of older RPGs, or just that kind of camera I suppose, but you can play it like that, or you can play it a bit like Dragon Age 2 was and have the kind of more action combat, more modern combat. Either way, you play it how you want to play it, and that's that's what they've kind of emphasised on, is freedom, and that's one of the main aspects of Dragon Age Inquisition that they try to push towards everyone and like use it as a main selling point. You can also take over keeps, which are sort of like the outposts on Far Cry 3. And when you take over a keep, all your people you own will go towards that keep, and they'll stay there, and it'll be like kind of base of operations almost. But the good thing is that you can actually tell your troops what to do, so it's sort of like an army simulator in that way. Hopefully it won't feel like it's just added on for the sake of being added on, but they have said that you can tell your troops to do certain things, and those things will affect the aesthetics and the kind of emotions of your army. So let's say you want to do an espionage kind of army, you could tell the people in your keep to go and spy on the Kunari and see what they're really doing, and then they come back and they get some benefits because of that. Maybe they get stealth, maybe they get kind of silver tongue kind of things, and your kind of keep would become kind of camouflaged maybe. This is just me speculating, but the change is definite, the type of changes are unknown. Or if you so desired, you could have brutality as your basis. You could run in and kill everybody in a village and force the king or whoever was in charge of said village to give you that place, and then you can take it over, and you can become sort of like Logain in earlier Dragon Age Origins, in the way that he was sort of like a tyrant of sorts. You could overthrow thrones and overthrow people in general and force people to love you. So you could be the Joffrey of Theodas if you wanted. There's also the new lands of Orlais, which is a new kind of place that hasn't been discovered in any games yet. You can go there, you can have a look over there. A lot of the places will be unknown to a lot of people who've only played the games, but the comics and books are supposed to tie in as well, so I read them if you want to know certain places that might be going to, and certain things that might happen. Maybe there's some speculation. Another thing that is good about Dragon Age Inquisition is the fact that the world goes on without you, and what I mean by that is that the characters and the people, the places, all change even if you're not there. For example, you could be in a city, you could leave to do a few quests, come back and find out that an old man has died. Perhaps the bard has died who was in the kind of restaurant. Not really sure, but like things like that really make the world feel alive and feel like not only you have consequence, but the things that every NPC does also have consequence as well. So it really makes the world realistic, and it really adds another layer of depth into the place, and it's good for people who really care about the story of Dragon Age, and I think a lot of people do care about the story of Dragon Age. Another way that the world of Theodas is really living is because BioWare mentioned themselves that the main plot will be saving the world from itself. Now that might sound like every game ever, but let me explain what that actually means. There's lots of kind of civil wars and lots of conflicts going about. For example, you have the plot between the Chantries and the Templars, and the foundation of which compromised the main plot of Dragon Age 2, and you'll be able to go to Tevinter to interfere with that. But they'll still be fighting throughout. The dwarves might be fighting people, the humans and elves will always be fighting because the humans enslaved elves, as I'm sure you already know. So there's lots of kind of little wars going on between people, as well as the Fade. So as the monsters from the Fade coming in, there's mages versus Templars, elves versus humans, Kunari versus everyone, and everyone is really fighting. And that combat and that war will be a really big part, and it'll really affect the way that the world is. The Warden in Dragon Age Origins and Hawk in Dragon Age 2 will also play really important roles, because they did indeed shape history. And this is set just after Dragon Age 2, but then it'll be a bit further than Dragon Age Origins, naturally. But what they did will really affect how the world state is, and even how you start off, how certain characters are treated, how certain things happen. But BioWare didn't really talk about what that means. I don't think the characters from Dragon Age Origins or Inquisition will still be alive. I'm not too sure. But one thing I would want to see personally is Alistair on the throne, because in my game Alistair was put on the throne, and I think that would be a rather interesting thing to do to the game. gameplay actually affects the story. What I mean by that is the strategy that you do, whether you send your units to the left to flank them or just to charge right in, that could have an effect on the actual story. The people in the thing could die, and the kind of broader strategy aspect is a real big part of Dragon Age. And that might manifest on the kind of playable environment, and you could dedicate agents to purging a sulfur mine to try and save people of the fumes. You could do different things like that, so your units also have a kind of big impact on the world as well. And if you did change that sulfur mine, that could actually be a kind of flanking point to walk through. And it's like things like that, like decisions used in the keep could help you in battle, and things done in battle could help you in a keep. So it has this kind of takeaway and then give back. This sort of relationship between them. Another good thing about Dragon Age Inquisition is that it has an improved dialogue wheel. And this might seem kind of trivial to a lot of people who don't really care about the story, or maybe even a lot of people in general, but the dialogue wheel has been improved, not just over kind of Dragon Age's dialogue wheel, but also over Mass Effect's dialogue wheel. So they've took a part of each one and they've kind of meshed it together and done this really interesting idea. And there's no kind of pictures of it, there's nothing I can show, but one thing they've talked about is the fact that when you hover over a choice, it'll give you a brief overview of what the consequences might be. So think Walking Dead. When you made a decision, it'll say like, Carly didn't like that. It'll have a similar thing, but it'll tell you before you make the decision. Hopefully it won't give away too much and take away from the kind of mystery of what's going to happen, but it'll give you a little kind of idea of what's happening, and it won't be like on Mass Effect, because on Mass Effect when you said you wanted to say fuck you, you would click fuck you, and you'd say boy. You wouldn't say the right thing, you'd say a similar thing, but it wasn't word for word. This will give you a kind of example of what the kind of consequences and what the actual character will say, so it's a rather interesting thing indeed. Now this final point could be a kind of positive or a negative depending on your opinion, but David Gator, a guy who's kind of big on the Dragon Age games, who was a big part of them, said that there will be multiplayer in some form, although it's not known what the multiplayer element will be. Now this is part worry and part excitement. I'm not sure if they're going to have their own dedicated multiplayer section, like on Mass Effect 3 where they had the kind of multiplayer away from the main game, and the things you did in that didn't really affect the main game apart from monetary wise. Or are they going to try and intertwine it into Dragon Age so that your friends can help you and you can have different Inquisitors helping out different people, sort of like on Fable. I want to believe this is going to be good, and I actually think it could be good, depending on the way they do it. If they do it in the way of Fable, where your friends can help you on your adventures in the single player experience, then it'll be good because they could help you, they could give you insight, and if they could interfere with the world, they could use their skills that they acquired over time to help your world. So let's say you went for a kind of stealth-based rogue who likes espionage. You could get a character from your friends who's a big tank, and he could do combat if the worst came to worst, and you could sneak around. Or you could have a mage who was good at intimidation and you were good at persuasion, so you could equal that out and try and balance it between you, and it could make for some really interesting gameplay. It would only be for four players if they did do it, because 4 players is the maximum you can have in your party, but I think it could be a rather interesting idea indeed if they did that. Although that's just speculation. They are definitely doing multiplayer, but no one knows what kind of multiplayer they're doing. That said, if they did competitive multiplayer, it would be rather strange. It would be like a missing pot of genres if they did that, because you would have the kind of army base thing where you have the creeps and you have to control armies. You would have the RPG element, which is Dragon Age as a whole, but then you'd have this kind of weird Total War thing, or even like Mountain Blade thing, if we did have competitive multiplayer, because you could be fighting each other with just one character, or you could be controlling the Kunaris against the dwarf or something, and then that would have like an army type thing, but it would be multiplayer. It would be rather strange. I think when they do multiplayer, 90%, I'm 90% sure it's going to be competitive to some degree. It's going to be cooperative to some degree. Competitive multiplayer just really doesn't fit in with Dragon Age. It sort of fitted in with Mass Effect 3, barely. It was a good thing, but I don't think they can intertwine it into this. Dragon Age isn't a game that can withstand competitive multiplayer, but co-op could be a good thing if it was executed right. But as you've seen with Dragon Age 2, when they try and do too many different things, it can go balls up. So this is a final point, and this is one that is on the precipice of being good and being bad. It's sort of in the middle, so don't get your hopes up too much on this point, but it is definitely something to try and look out for and research as time goes by. But there you go, that was the top 10 reasons to buy Dragon Age Inquisition. Hopefully I got you a bit more excited, and hopefully you're looking forward to this game again. I think BioWare have really learnt from mistakes in terms of Dragon Age 2, in terms of Dragon Age 2, its gameplay and its story, and the fact that it was just in one city, and they've also learnt from the ending of Mass Effect 3. I think that we should really give these guys a chance, but if I'm honest, this is the final chance they're getting from me. If this game turns out terrible, that'll be one of my favourite franchises in video games going down the drain, and I can't have that. I'm putting all my hopes and dreams into this. I'm putting all my all my time into researching this. I love the characters. I loved Morrigan most. I loved Meryl. I loved Isabella. Hopefully they can regain our trust and make a good game, but only time will tell. I've been Ciparian. This has been Top 10 Reasons to Buy Inquisition. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.